You have an unflinching knowledge inside. There is no request for authorization. It has no linguistic capabilities. It is unconcerned with reasoning, evidence, or justification. Underneath the frozen ground, it lurks like a fire, similarly to a monarch banished from his own realm. Feel free to numb it. Feel free to flee from it. The soul remembers everything the mind has attempted to forget, so you can drown it in performance, distraction, or convenience, and it will not die. To fit in, no matter how many times you compromise your truth. You believe that time buries your impulses to be courteous, every time you lied to others, and especially yourself, to feel safe, and every time you played little to feel comfortable. But all it does is bury it till stillness reawakens it. It cries out, pain rather than words. A dull aching, like a whisper saying, no, this isn't it. It's like midnight when there's no one to impress, when everything seems to be going swimmingly. When the cheers die down and all you can hear is the echo of your own avoidance, it hurts. One option is to fool your head, but your spirit will never let you. Souls are aware. Before they named you, it knew who you were. It is aware of the things you passed up while posing as someone else. It detects when you stop being yourself in pursuit of their acceptance. The truth has been shattered inside of you, and it is aware of the price. The mind believes it is protecting you, which is a tragic situation. It gives you an excuse to keep quiet. It makes you feel disconnected on a deeper level. It normalizes your trauma by cloaking it in productivity or civility, depending on the situation. It was never intended for fullness to feel like stifling. Something will break eventually, perhaps a relationship, a job, or the illusion you meticulously constructed. And at that very instant, the spirit will ascend, not in a mild or courteous way, but more like a forest that has forgotten it was once part of the earth being reclaimed by a wildfire. This isn't a collapse. A return has been made. There is a precious, terrible place called euphoria, where the soul begs to be felt after piercing through the psychological curtain. Feeling down is not it. That isn't. Madness. A new day has begun. There is no soul out there plotting your demise. If you've been led to believe that merely surviving is success, it's attempting to set you free. Freedom requires facing the demons that the mind hid. Everything from unresolved anger and unprocessed grief to inherited beliefs and the voice you buried in order to fit in. You have this naive idea that gaining power will make you seem better. However, being more truthful is the path to real power. The world seldom sees a person in their whole when their mind and soul cease to fight. Not flawless, not smoothly incorporated. Integrators pose a threat. You can't humiliate them into submission. No amount of background noise will annoy them. Scarcity will not work on them. They have a firm grasp on their identity and can vividly recall their pre-interference selves. Attitude is unrelated to drive. This is all about breaking free, freeing oneself from ideas that didn't really belong to you. Let that sink in. How old were you when you made up your mind? Think you're insufficient? Is weariness going to be the price you pay for success? Are you done making a decision yet? That one has to work for love? Or were you taught these notions from an early age and told them over and over again until your brain accepted them as true? Jung warned that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. Consider who planted the seed of self-criticism in your heart. Hey, who told you that just being alive is an excuse? So, who persuaded you that pain is virtuous, that remaining silent is a sign of strength, and that happiness might be harmful? That is the product of your upbringing, not your rational thinking. It will control you until you release it from. Nodding off. Having faith is not considering anything to be true. Faith is constructing one's existence around it. Your beliefs are demonstrated by every decision you make. What you really represent, not just your words or affirmations. Your boundaries are a reflection of your self-worth. Your posture is a reflection of your self-confidence. Your lack of speech indicates that you do not feel the need to persuade others if you already believe that you are sufficient. So, quit preaching something you can't back up with your actions. Put your worth into your own hands and stop acting it out. Faith is not a mantra, because it is a reflection. It will reveal all the things you are still afraid to confront. Only when you feel the pain and let it burn away your illusion can you begin to rebuild on solid ground. Being clear is aggressive. It slashes. It rips apart the fiction you believed in, the security you sought, and the myths you held upon. You can see who has your back. You can see what doesn't work anymore. The majority of your self-perception was actually the result of adaptation. It reveals. Survival necessitated adaptation. Love found a way to adapt to you. Instead of being abandoned, you adapted. You adjusted. To put them at ease. Adjusting isn't what the spirit desires, though. Remember, it is urging you. Even more so, memory, spiritual memory, is not free. People will stop supporting you. Programs will go awry. You will no longer embody the selfless individual who vowed to ensure their existence. However, when you let go of all that, you discover who you are, and clarity becomes the tool that shapes your life. Not convenience, not endorsement, nor harmony. And those who are in alignment don't seek guidance. They seem to have no trouble retracing their steps. The ability to view. That's real. A message from the past is trying to get through to you now, nagging at the crevices of your conditioned mind, demanding that you recall your purpose for being here before the world managed to make you forget it. You failed to inspire. Now you find it. Underneath the layers of shoulds, societal expectations, survival behaviors, and hereditary concerns, it was always present. Being blind is dangerous. It shouldn't be this way, since having a vision doesn't guarantee that the life you're living will be. Living, completely rearranging it is its purpose. That causes disturbance. It requires. It rips the fabric of safety and reveals the deception that says you should just remain where it's cozy. Except that warmth wasn't your birthright. There are places in this world that have grown dark with resignation, and you were born to light them on fire. Vision is the blueprint for the spirit. Plus, once you see it, you won't be able to take your eyes off of it. When you despise your job, it becomes intolerable. Your mask is beginning to choke. What starts as quietness becomes a shout, and the scream turns into a signal. This is not a collapse. It is a sacred ritual. Restrictions are not discipline. This is dedication. Dedicated service to the self-actualized future self of yours. The one who struts confidently, bravely, and independently. Rather than reacting, they now create. Discipline is a vote in their favor every time. You're getting back to who you are, not because you're trying too hard. A disorganized mind is a mind in servitude to disorder. However, a self-disciplined spirit can shape reality as it sees fit. At the moment when there is no. Everyone is looking. Some people scroll while you study. When you're not feeling motivated, you work out. You pick the hard way when saying yes would have been simpler. Plus, you do it not because you enjoy it, but rather because it defines your current identity. That is the change that is kept secret from you. Doing the difficult thing once isn't when you'll see the transformation. That's when the challenging thing becomes your norm, assuming you keep up with the times. Discipline is no longer necessary when one's identity solidifies and their acts become inevitable, not forced, but natural, eliminated as a deterrent. It's an honor. Moving on to the next step is essential. All your inner labor is sacrificed on the altar of action. The vision can be yours. The plan can be written by you. Yes, the wound can be healed. Complete a full-body alignment of your chakras by meditating for hours. But transformation cannot occur in the absence of action. You transform as you move forward, making choice after choice that is in line with your reality rather than your pain. This is the boundary that separates the soul's theoretical development from its materialization. You exit the cavern. You put your practice time, what you're capable of. Disregarding celestial cues, you move on, because it has already set your bones on fire. When you're ready to move on, you quit pleading with people to comprehend you. Despite their taunting, you continue to move. Since you have already made up your mind about who you are, you will continue to take action regardless of whether they ghost you or if fear tries to take your voice. And deeds are the proof. When you talk with your spirit, You don't say things like, I am ready. Rather, you say things like, I am real. Assume nothing. Not negotiating. It isn't align dependent. Alignment is the key. The noise goes away, the conditioning breaks, and then you can hear it again the moment your mind gives in. Not via words, but by knowing, by instinct, by resonance, by the kind of clarity that does not require explanation and which does not allow room for doubt. Looking in the mirror, you fail to see any signs of personal growth. Returning to their previous position, you notice a figure, dreaming again of a whole self, coming back to a fire that would never go out, going back to a route that, somewhere under a diversion for a long time. You won't call this an increase. We are returning home. Moreover, a house is not a home. It's a place where you can feel your soul. The path where your actions are meaningful, even though they appear incorrect to others. Here, quietness is more powerful than any amount of showmanship. Where you have a firm grasp on who you are, and where you can express yourself without worrying that others would misunderstand. The ability to bounce back from adversity is different from endurance. Not clenching your jaw and getting through another agony session. When you're using your own. Suppression, disconnection, not strength, is the correct term to use. Remembering is resilience. Finding your identity after all else has been taken away is what it means. Keeping your bearings in a world that thrives on your disarray is what it means. Being quiet trembles walls, not because it shows weakness, but because it commands attention. Embracing the rubble is a path to resilience. It takes place when all seems lost, but yet something fundamental refuses to give up. Resilience is not the point. Getting to the top, in a new way, reverting to your former self, is impossible. The same shell cannot be rebuilt. Fragile yet entire, you go forth. Simply said, the soul does not repair you by returning you to your original form. It puts you back together by bringing to light the truth that was always concealed by the facade. That epiphany might be as intense as fire at times. Feelings of loss, rejection, and quiet. The treachery. No one comes to punish you. Rather, they come to burn away what you can't take with you. Embrace the things that threatened your demise. Forgetting is not the point here. Pardoning is not the point here. Hastily or without delving into the depths of your emotions. This is about reclaiming control over your life after the suffering that molded you. Learn presence through abandonment. Allow yourself to be taught self-awareness by the rejection. Let the stillness of other people help you rediscover the sound of your own voice. Not everything is fine just because you're integrated. As the scar is no longer who you are, you can move on when life throws you a curveball. This is the tale of your beginnings, and it has evolved. Nobody is a victim except you. No, you did not. Fixer. You don't remain quiet merely to avoid conflict. You are the one who, despite the mind's best efforts to bury the past, chooses to face the future with a willing spirit and unwavering resolve. We call that integration. Power like that. We have arrived at the brink now. This is the point at which you can either take a giant leap forward or revert to your previous, more predictable, performative, and pleasant self. You dive headfirst into the void of your own personal development. You take flight into the self-assured version of herself who knows she can be big and strong now. Jumping into the enigma of a life derived from spirit, not from mere existence. At first, no one will cheer for you. Many people won't get you. People who loved you just for your mask will stop supporting you, including friends and family. Free them up. Truth is the only thing that can catch you when you jump. The truth doesn't provide any protection either. It changes the way the plane lands. No longer will you touch down in the same spot. Your speech pattern will change. The way you used to move will no longer be possible. Reason being that spirit. A new ruler has been installed. The soul, which recalls details that the mind had forgotten. You also no longer enter rooms with the intention of being observed. Every detail is visible the moment you step inside. Love is not something you pursue. Your aura exudes it. Do not inquire about authorization. Now that you are free from your past, you may move forward with determination. Do not run after your future. The everlasting knowledge that pulses beneath it all is what you're living from. I never got lost. I said nothing at all. And, well, it has just occurred to me that you aren't empty because you're sick. It is you. You've been filled with things that weren't truly yours, and now you feel empty. Complete with unnecessary distractions, feelings of shame, and judgment from those who failed to inquire about your innermost emotions. Under the pretext of love, you've been bearing the burden of expectations. You've been going about your life under a mask, pretending to be someone else, putting on a show, and getting things done, but you've been progressively losing touch with your true self. One night, in the dead of night, when the scroll comes to a close and the stillness of a task completed, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Not only did it not bring you peace, but it also left you with an ache, a hollow, and a deep knowing whisper that said, "This isn't it. This whisper worries you since you've tried everything they said would heal you." The map was followed. Every box was checked by you. Their prediction of your achievement came true. Nothing seems to be quite right, though. There's no such thing. You are it. If you've ever wondered why you're so empty, this is it. For the sake of acceptance, peacekeeping, performance, and survival, you have repeatedly abandoned yourself. Your treachery, intuition for symphony. Avoiding confrontation, you kept your voice down. To retain their love, you downplayed your desires. As you continued to do that, you gradually faded into thin air. Breaking you wasn't necessary. You crushed yourself trying to fit in with people whose lifestyles couldn't support your truth. Your objective has been, delayed, and you now carry around a smile that has been negotiated, laughing that has been edited, and the price has been you. Nothing to do with your career, your personal life, or your social standing. Who you are, the authentic, long-lost, primal, fearless, unfiltered version of yourself that existed prior to the world instilling in you the need to conform. The reason you feel void is not a lack of possessions, but rather the fact that you have sacrificed all for the acceptance of others. Seek for things rather than truths, as you were taught. Status, not self-interest, was your primary training. We shaped you to wear your pride like a shield. The authority to do so. It wasn't power, though. It was for safety's sake. Safety from staring at one's own reflection. For the simple reason that when you slow down, you'll be able to see her the second you remove your mask and gaze into the mirror. You'll run into him, that person who has been patiently anticipating your return. There is no more void beyond that point. Release more, not more when you get. Lay aside the deceit. Let go of the predictions. Let go of the idea that you have to endure pain in order to be valuable. You were never meant to perform for love. The two of you were meant to be loved. This is known as euphoria. When one sense of self starts to rebuild from the rubble of a lifetime of pretended, the joy of a psychic regeneration that does not come from conquering, but from reclaiming. No need to reinvent yourself. You should go back to the original, but that requires you to walk into the fire. The illusion must burn. Dismantle the myth that your worth is directly proportional to your output. Dismantle the story that portrays your lack of speech as a sign of failure. The script they handed you should be burned. Instead, you should write your own script in blood, truth, clearly. Reason being that emotional famine can be alleviated through clarity. And it is only when you're prepared to bid farewell to the old deities. The deity of flawless performance, the deity of pleasing others, and the god of success. They are empty promises that will never be fulfilled by these idols. Their suckage will be so great that your spirit will eventually die. If you must, murmur it under your breath, but say it nonetheless. Recognize that you're not lost and return home. I bury you. Finally, get up and move around. Rebuilding your thinking should be your first priority. Neither with optimism nor with catchphrases, but with the reality. You're keeping pace. I'm not late. There is no damage to you. You're the intended starting point for the unraveling. For the simple reason that unraveling is holy. Once all the pretense has crumbled, only then can you become genuine. Until every hole has been filled, you will never feel full. The source of power is here. Not when you cram more in, but rather when you admit defeat. Quit pretending that everything is fine. Quit trying to impress people by exaggerating your achievements. Quit trying to hide your aspirations just because someone else brought them up too often. It isn't excessive. You are it. On top of that, you were. You were never supposed to settle for being subpar. Even in stillness, your purpose is to be heard above all else. You were created to be complete, strong, and in harmony. Becoming that, though, requires you to face your views head-on. The ones that govern your life silently, the ones that you bury, the ones that you never speak aloud. False beliefs include thinking you are insufficient, that happiness is something you have to work for, and that tranquility is something other people have. These experiences have scripts that are passed down through generations and are perpetuated until this very moment. Your self-worth is no longer an audition, and you stop doing it today. So, you're saying that I've had enough of letting those who can't read my spirit write my identity. Even a crack light can penetrate after that change occurs. Your entire demeanor, including your voice, boundaries, and desires, will begin to shift the moment the light enters. Forget about pursuing love. At some point, you'll become it. You quit wanting to be free. In your memory, you always possessed it. Because contentment originates inside, not outside. You no longer seek external sources for it. From the sound of applause, not from place of safety, but from the truth and from the freedom to be oneself without fear of judgment. Very well done. Simply put, you have crossed the threshold into an irretrievable situation. What you've said is false. You've made a refuge for yourself. As soon as the masks are off, truth hits like a hurricane raging through thick fog. However, ease should not be confused with clarity. No ambiguity here. What is no longer useful is severed. Once it was busy, it becomes quiet. It exposes you to what you truly require for survival by removing the things you believed were essential. Sustain life. At first, clarity isn't peaceful. Anarchy reigns. The foundation of that connection was fear, and now you can see through it. The profession that dulls your senses rather than empowering you to achieve objectives that were never truly yours. The prison you refer to as purpose is exposed by clarity, even as you attempted to evade the reality in the guise of maintaining peace. Keep walking. Avoid at all costs. You can't turn back now since you've been asleep for so long. In the fire it must burn. Let everything tumble if it has to, because there was never any solid foundation for anything that relied on your quiet. Defeat does not describe this. Freedom has arrived. Something else will emerge from the ashes after the smoke has cleared. Vision. The crystal clear path toward your life's purpose, as opposed to nebulous dreams of what it might be in the future. The soul remembers by vision. I did not come here to repeat. I came here to rebuild, is a statement you've likely tried to live by. You've made an effort to avoid risk. You've made an effort to be more comprehensible, approachable, and consumable. The difference now is that you realize that version of yourself will never be complete. It isn't you. Therefore you. Start molding another, an existence where your spirit is alive. A route that doesn't make your feet drag. Along the road they go. You won't find this vision in any books or gurus. In silence it will ascend. It will resurface as if it were an enduring memory. It will softly murmur, remember me. I am the life you stowed away when they told you to be smaller. Unleash it. Let it stretch. Let it frighten you. Your vision isn't big enough if it doesn't frighten the parts of you that once settled. If it doesn't offend your old identity, then it's not authentic. You still haven't shed enough layers. Your purpose isn't to build a life that others understand. Rather, it is to create a life that brings you joy every morning. And now we'll talk about the foundation of it all, purpose. Rather than finding purpose, you should strive to remember it. Think back to the things that made you happy before the world dimmed them, to the things that made time fly by before concerns about money and approval came into play, and to the sensation of moving forward without seeking acknowledgement. That's purpose. It doesn't always make sense, it doesn't always pay well at first, and it doesn't always fit the script that others have given you. But it calls to you from deep within, from the stillness, from the part of your soul that refuses to die quietly. And the moment you answer yes to it, not just verbally but with your life, you become unstoppable. Because purpose makes pain bearable, gives a storm meaning, turns wounds into wisdom, and suffering into strategy. You're not empty, it's not that you're broken, it's that you're misaligned. When you get back into alignment, the void begins to fill, not because it's gone, but because you're at home with yourself again. However, knowing your purpose isn't enough, you must guard it with discipline. Discipline is devotion, not punishment. It's your sacred yes to the future, the things you desire, and your merciless no to anything that betrays it. Discipline is the unseen acts, the choices that don't receive praise, the boundaries that are quietly enforced, and the temptations that you resist. You must not be weak or distracted if you choose to walk away from, but you must be too powerful to be distracted. Discipline is a decision that says, "This life is mine, and I will not abandon myself again." So you must rise early, create, move, learn, say no without guilt, rest with intention, speak only when necessary, act not because it's convenient, but because it's necessary. Discipline does not care about your mood or ask for motivation. It demands integrity. And when you're ready, you must walk away from. When your actions are in harmony with your vision, you cease to live in reaction and begin to lead from your identity. You transform into the person your past self wished you could be, and your future self is grateful to you for that. However, life is never kind. It will test your new alignment, shake the ground beneath you, and send storms to see if you still blush. In these moments, your next gift will awaken adaptability. You will not always have the choice of conditions. Feeling empty and needing life to be perfect, start thriving regardless. Let go of the plan, but never let go of the path. Let go of how it should have been, but never let go of who you're becoming. Because you weren't made to be linear, but to embrace the path you're on. The strong don't resist the wave, they become water. Then, pivot, endure. They don't need the world to be calm. They made peace within themselves. As you progress, those who are afraid to start their own journeys will be confused. That's a good thing, though, because you are now navigating a fire that is not meant to destroy you, but to reveal you. Here, your old self is pleading to be remembered, patterns to be repeated, and the mind to whisper, "Go back." It was easier there, but you know too much now. You have tasted truth, you have glimpsed your power, and once you do, you can't unsee it. Here is where resilience is born, the real kind and not the fake kind. Resilience is not a facade of strength. It's an ability to bend and not break, to hurt and not give in, to cry in quiet and rise in clarity. Rather than saying, "I'm fine," resilience says, "I'm becoming." You break cycles and become more fully present in your suffering when you resist the urge to numb yourself with toxic positivity and instead learn to sit with discomfort, not as a punishment, but as the place of growth. Everyone told you your emotions were a liability, that your intuition was too sensitive, and that your depth was too much. But they were wrong. Your emotions are not weaknesses, but signals, messengers, sacred data points from your inner self that can help you build a life that feeds your soul. You must stop stifling the parts of yourself that are emotional and start living in power. Because everything you want is on the other side of what you're afraid to feel, that which was never meant to be hushed. Your fury is a boundary you have yet to express. Your grief is the truth yearning to be respected. Your anxiety is your physical manifestation of an unbalanced existence. Instead of suppressing your emotions, a powerful mind listens to them, deciphers them, and transforms them. A powerful life isn't devoid of emotion, but driven by it, not controlled by it. You experience everything, but you don't transform into anything that betrays them. Remembering to stay soft in a world that hardened you and staying deep in a world that celebrates shallow, you return home to something ancient. Soul reintegration is the process of remembering and weaving back together of every piece of yourself that you disowned in order to be loved. This includes the loud, quiet, fearful, bold, overly loving, underappreciated parts of yourself. You call them all back. You sit them at your feet, at the table, and declare, enough with the exile, the shame, and the slashing of my identity to fit in being shamelessly whole. Messy, glorious is my choice. Something occurs at that very second. A rift is opening up in a void. Not because you changed, but because you were finally okay with who you were. You ceased your sprint. Negotiations came to a halt. You ceased to demonstrate. Yours was restored. When you reclaim, you stop seeking love and start being love instead. Power is something you become rather than something you seek. Peace is no longer your pursuit. The truth has always been there, you know. The time has come. The fact is this: your needs were always met. You never suffered any harm. Living a life that didn't fulfill your spirit was all you were doing. And that's all. Over living in a robotic state. Your words have been swallowed. Give up on sacrificing who you were to fit in. Leave behind what was never rightfully yours. No longer do you give up control and let fate decide for you. Everything that isn't genuine starts to crumble as you finally and completely select yourself. All that didn't. Highways, prisons, and narratives. And then what? You alone, not the act or the mask. Raw, unadulterated, undeniably you. Plus, there is no nothingness in that you. That you that is luminous, grounded, genuine. Space is everything that exists. Interpretation room. There must be room for tranquility, honesty, sacred solitude, and a life that is in harmony with your spirit. Never were you excessive. At all times, you were sufficient. This is the moment you've been anticipating. As soon as it occurred to you, you are not nothing. A huge being you are. I am. Wild. Your life is not in vain. Well, now you're free.